Hello, my name is Raj Pochiraju, Principal Program Manager in Azure Data Group at Microsoft. Today I will introduce SQL Server Migration Readiness Assessment released in Arc SQL Servers enabled by Azure Arc. This feature helps you to pick the most optimal Azure SQL configuration for your SQL Server workload migrations. Before I go into it, I briefly want to talk the various phases in the migration journey. The cloud migration journey is a multi-step process that can take several months to complete, depending on the scale and complexity of your workloads. The essential steps include discovering your SQL servers and workloads, essentially collecting the inventory of all your SQL servers and application servers and find out those dependencies that you can use for effective migration planning. In the next phase, where you want to understand how ready these SQL servers and databases and applications migrate into Azure, and at the same time finding out the right optimal Azure SQL configuration. In the third phase, where you want to start migrating these databases and applications with a method that minimizes the impact to your businesses. As you see here in this migration journey, you're going to start experiencing the cloud benefits. You're starting to optimize your operations and your investments. Only in the last phase of your migration journey called optimize. But with Arc enabled SQL servers, you can start modernizing your operations and start modernizing the optimizing the operational costs from the day one of the migration journey. You leverage the same Arc to embark rest of the migration journey using an integrated experience. At first, I will briefly spend some time to go over all the SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc benefits that help you to modernize your operations and optimize your operational costs. And then I go deep into SQL Server migration assessments. SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc help you to centrally manage, secure, protect, and now migrate your SQL Server workloads from a single control plane, Azure. At first, let's look at the inventory capability. With Arc enabling your SQL servers, you get handle of all your SQL Server inventory from a single control plane, Azure, regardless where they're deployed, whether they're deployed in the on-premises data centers, edge devices, or in multi-cloud environments. You can start getting the insights from the inventory that help you in your migration planning. You can centrally manage the SQL Server licenses from Azure. And also you can set the optimal license type based on the usage pattern of your SQL servers by enabling your SQL servers to Arc. Then if you have any of these SQL servers that requires extended security updates, you can subscribe to our extended security updates as a service option, and then you start getting the extended security updates. Not only that, you can start optimizing the costs for the extended security updates by subscribing to the Arc. And then you can leverage our automated patching service to start patching, managing the updates to your SQL Server environment. With the backups capability enabled in the Arc, now you can manage your automated backups. You can set the backup schedules for your databases, including the full backups, differential backups, and as well as the transaction log backups. And also you can define the retention policies or retention period for your database backups. The performance dashboard capability that we recently released really help you to monitor real time the SQL Server environment from anywhere in the world just by logging into the Azure, so that you can really get the real time metrics of the CPU utilization, memory utilization, the disk IO utilization of your SQL servers. The SQL Server best practice assessment provides you a risk assessment for you, proactively identifies if your SQL servers are running into any type of risks and provides you a prioritized mitigation guidance that you can use that guidance to fix some of these risks and then bring and manage your SQL servers in a healthy environment. With the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you can safeguard your SQL Server estate. The Microsoft Defender for Cloud gives you vulnerability assessment, and that feature scans your databases to discover, track, and remediate vulnerabilities. And it also provides you advanced threat protection. So this service continuously monitors your SQL servers for threats. For example, SQL Server injection or brute force attacks, and then provide you the mitigation guidance to address those attacks. This way you can really safeguard your SQL servers using the Microsoft Defender. And few other benefits includes the Azure Entra authentication that you can leverage to have a single sign-on methods, single sign-on policy. And then you can also leverage the integration with the Microsoft Purview service, so that you can centrally manage the access controls, centrally manage the access for your SQL Server environment. Until this point, you saw all the benefits that SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc offers that modernize your SQL Server estate operations and also optimize the operational costs. Now let's see how Arc really help you to plan the Azure migrations. Now I'm introducing the SQL Server migration assessments enabled by Azure Arc. You get these assessments automatically enabled for you without to go through additional pre-requirements. All you need to do is you just need to enable your SQL servers so that you will get these migration assessment automatically for the SQL Server environments. These assessments indicate the different migration strategies that you can consider for your SQL Server migrations to Azure, Azure SQL Manager instance, Azure SQL Server on Azure VMs, and Azure SQL DBs. For each of these deployment options, the assessment provide you a report that indicate how ready your SQL Server and databases migrating to any of these deployment options. The way that we assess the readiness of your SQL servers is that the assessment scans across your SQL Server configurations, database configurations, the schema, the table definitions, view definitions, and it also look at the programmable objects like stored procedures, triggers, and then proactively scans and finds out if any of these objects have any incompatibility features that are used in your existing SQL Server environment migrating to Azure SQL. And it report those incompatibility issues and also provide you the mitigation steps to make your databases ready to migrate to Azure. And for example, if your SQL Server is marked as not ready for any of these deployment options, then you can find out what are those migration blockers that are preventing you to migrate to Azure SQL. And also it provides you can also find the mitigation steps for those. So the assessment will give you the specific databases that are being impacted and also the specific object. In this case, it happens to be a stored procedure, which is going to break when you migrate this database to Azure SQL database in this case. And then it also provides the specific recommendations how you can really mitigate this issue migrating to Azure SQL to begin with. So this readiness report really help you to identify the specific Azure SQL target that you can migrate with zero or minimal effort. And also at the same time, for those migrations issues, how to mitigate some of those migration issues as well. For those SQL servers that are ready to migrate to Azure SQL, we provide you the most optimal Azure SQL configuration that you can migrate to, which optimizes the performance and the price. It provides you the compute size and as well as the storage size. The way that we compute the size is based on the performance data that we collect for last 30 days. And we collect we look at the CPU utilization, the memory utilization, read IO response times, and the IOPS requirement that your workload requires from the SQL Server databases, the latencies, the total database sizes, and the way that the database files are organized. We comprehensively look into all this performance data, and then based on that data, we compute a Azure SQL SKU that can provide you the similar performance or little bit exceeded performance, so that when you migrate, you don't have to worry about the performance of Azure SQL for your workloads. The assessment collects the performance data sample for every 30 seconds and aggregates the data for every 10 minutes and upload to the cloud for the SKU computations. The assessment identifies the appropriate data point to use for the sizing, and that is based on the 95th percentile values for your performance history. And we collect this data for the last 30 days. The reason we collect the last 30 days is to cover your day-to-day business transactions, and as well as to accommodate any of the batch process that might happen on a daily basis or weekends or in a monthly or the end of the month, so that we can give you the right sizing which accommodates the entire workload characteristics. Are you excited to see the assessment of your SQL servers? If yes, then one thing that you want to make sure that you upgrade the Windows agent.SQL Server extension, also called as the SQL Server extension for Azure, upgraded to the version which is stated here, 1.1.2594.118. Make sure that you update the version of the SQL Server extension to this version stated on the screen, and then start getting the assessment reports soon. And hope this assessment give you confidence to migrate to Azure SQL. And please stay tuned for more features further to streamline your migration experience in the future. Thank you so much for your time.